So we're gonna discuss the different strategies on how to make habits easier to form, the good ones easier to form and the bad ones easier to break. And the first framework or concept I would like to discuss is the 4 tendencies. So have you ever thought about why certain people have easier time building or breaking habits and some people have a harder time? How many of you have set up New Year's resolutions in the beginning of the year? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, okay. And how many are you are still doing them? 1? 1.5? Okay. So there is this theory that all people fall into 4 tendencies. And we're going to find out who they are. Upholders, obligers, questioners, and rebels. Yep. So it's all built on how we kind of meet our own expectations. So what is our own expectation? I want to be on time. I want to exercise more. Anything related to New Year's resolutions, maybe learning a new language, practicing guitar. That's my own expectation, what I expect from myself. And some people have easier time keeping their own expectations than keeping outer expectations. What are the outer expectations? Your boss asks you to do something, yeah? Sometimes it's going to be easier for some people, depending on the category. It's going to be easier for you to do what your boss asks you to do, or when you have a deadline, or when there is pressure from family or friends, peer pressure, etc. And I would like to give you, just from the names, upholder, questioner, obliger, and rebel, I would like to give you the things that one of them would say, and you have to guess which tendency that person belongs to. So this person says, I love routines, and people think I'm extremely disciplined. Donovan says upholder, and that's a correct answer. This person says, I value freedom and choice. I do what I want to do when I want to do it. Rebels. That's, everybody guessed that one. The next person says, I love researching, and people sometimes say that I ask why too much. Of course, questioner. And the last one, obviously, is going to be an obliger. They say, I put others ahead of me, and I value harmony and relationships. So, upholders, let's start with them. They have an easy time meeting both expectations, their own and whatever people ask of them. They have almost no trouble in keeping any resolutions or any requests. And their motto, if it comes up on the screen, maybe you can help me over there. The motto of an upholder is, discipline is my freedom. So these are people who love, they love routines, they love schedules, they love to-do lists. They generally have no problem keeping a habit, and they can stick to a habit for a long time and only break it or stop it when it doesn't serve them anymore. They generally have a hard time to give themselves a little bit more freedom, and they might not understand why others have trouble in keeping habits. These could be people who would come to presentation and ask, why have I to be here in the first place? Because they generally have no issue. Or why would others come and listen to this presentation, right? It's still not coming up, and I don't know why. Questioners, brilliant. Questioners as you guessed, like to ask questions. They won't do anything unless it makes sense, right? If it makes sense, they will make this expectation, whatever you requested from them, they'll make it their own expectation. So, brother says, or I call daddy, I can't call him says anymore, asked me to do this presentation. And because I was asked me to do a presentation, and because I really wanted to do on habits, I immediately made it my own expectation. So I have no trouble. I'm a questioner, by the way. And if you don't make sense with your requests, they will resist it, right? They need to have strong reasons in order to stick to a habit. And these are the people who will do extensive research before they would be able to make any changes to their behavior. Anyone already recognizing themselves in any of these? Questioner's motto is, I'll comply if you convince me why. Then there are obligers. Obligers like to make people happy, very reliable, and have a hard time saying no to people, and they have a hard time keeping their own expectations. So somebody might say, I want to work out more, and they don't understand why they can't just keep up with it. Yep. So what obligers need is an outer accountability. They need somebody to help them stick to their habits. Yep. They might suffer in silence from unfair treatment for a long time and then burst out to what is called obliger rebellion. So those are people who generally tend to quit their jobs without any prior warning. They just build up the pressure and then just burst. These are the people who tend to quit marriage suddenly. They might have suffered for 10 years from an abusive relationship. So you better be very gentle with an obliger. If you know that person is an obliger, to request them anything. Make sure that it is reasonable what you're asking of them. Otherwise, they might build resentment, and eventually they will, eventually they will rebel and turn into one of the last categories, and will stop fulfilling any requests whatsoever. Maybe it's like a burnout of some sort. Yep. And rebels are people who do what they want and when they want, right? Nobody can force them to do anything they don't want to do. They are more likely to change their habits because they want to identify with a particular personality trait. For example, I want to be the person who is on time, and they just want it, and that's why they do it, not because somebody asked them to be on time, right? Or they can take a new habit as a challenge, as a game, or a dare. So you have to kind of gamify all of this habit formation thing for them. And don't try to manipulate rebels, because they will see through it. You can't make them do anything, and I have learned that from my own experience. It's just a waste of time, right? If you want to go somewhere with a rebel, like a trip or something, make sure that it is their own incentive, that their own initiative. They have to plan it themselves, and then they will actually do it. But if you tell them, would you like to do this on that particular day, they don't know what they will want to do on that particular day when they wake up, right? So these are just to help you understand the psychology behind why some people have an easier time, why people have harder time meeting certain expectations. But don't be mistaken that one of these is better than the other. We all fall into 4 categories, and sometimes they overlap. So for example, I am a questioner upholder. Somebody might be an obliger upholder. Somebody might be a rebel obliger or rebel questioner. The upholders and rebels never mix, and the questioner obligers never mix, as you can see from the circles. So what will help upholders stick to their habits is generally they don't need help in sticking to the habits, right? These are people who are already doing what they want to do and what other people ask them to do, and they just, you can just keep on going, right? If you are an upholder. Questioners need to read as much as they can about the habit that they want to build. And obligers need to find a way to make themselves accountable to someone for the habit that they want to build. For example, they could pay for a class in a gym, and because they know that somebody will be expecting them there to turn up, they might feel like as if it's somebody is asking them to do that particular thing. Or there was an interesting story about a husband and a wife, and the wife was an obliger. And so the husband suggested this idea that he can't do any exercise, and he loved exercising, unless she does exercise on that day, right? So she, because she didn't want to let him be left out of exercise, she had to exercise herself in order for him to exercise. So there are different tactics that you can use to make yourself accountable, whether it is going to gym with somebody or maybe another habit. There are different ideas also on the internet how to make that work. Even there are platforms that help you to partner with somebody online. You're working on your project, that person is working on their project, the cameras are on, and you just do like a power hour. You're just working on your project because you just need that face that is looking at you and telling you that you have to be working right now. Yep. And for rebels, how to help them to meet a habit, to form a habit, is to just turn it into a challenge. There's like a 30-day challenge this or 30-day challenge that. I dare you cannot quit smoking. That might work, but don't use it too often because a rebel might figure out there's something fishy going on here. Because they might be like, it's the opposite, reverse psychology. Or they want, I can do this, but then why would I do this if maybe that's what they want me to do in the first place, right? So just be careful with using these tactics. And gamifying. Some people just write down what they need to do, like a to-do list on a piece of paper, each to-do on a piece of paper. They fold them up, put them in a jar, and then shake them up, and they're like, okay, I would like to do something, I don't know what. They just pull out a task, and they just do it. So it's that kind of thing. And if you don't want to do it, don't do it. So make sure that with a rebel, they don't feel like they have to do it. And also, it's good for them to find the reasons why that habit supports the person that they want to be, because they're all about kind of sticking to what, the person that they want to be in the life. Okay, let's move on. Oh, by the way, are there any questions on this 4 tendency framework? No, you can't be all 4. I said that some of them don't even mix together, so obviously you can't. You can be the overlapping ones. Upholder, questioner, rebel, obliger, upholder, but one of them is going to dominate. Sometimes I feel like I'm a rebel because I'm a questioner, right? Because if somebody asks me to do something unreasonable, I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Unless you convince me why, right? So sometimes I'm like an upholder. To-do lists, all of this, it's going to be done. Can you be convinced? Yes. If you convince me, yeah. If you convince me why. Why a particular task on that particular day, or why today, why now? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So which one of them needs the most help or needs a friend? A good friend. Obliger needs support. Definitely. They depend on others to help them. You see, obliger says their motto is, you can count on me I'm counting on you to count on me. Right? And questionnaires need like a very thick answer book. So for me, for example, with exercising, yeah, uh, I tell you this, at my workplace, one lady kept telling me, "You go to gym? Why do you need to go to gym?" And I felt a bit, strange. At first, you know that you need to exercise regardless whether you are slim or not. And then at some point I was like, yeah, indeed, why do I need to go to gym? Why do I need to exercise? So when I got this, because it was a catering job, I didn't worry about exercising much because you walk all the time. But when I'm having this job where I sit most of the day, I stopped exercising much and stopped walking. And for a long time, I didn't exercise. So I had to actually research why exercise is good for me, even though I don't need to lose weight, why exercise is good for me. And I found that it's not only good for losing weight, it's for digestion, it is for good mood, it is to have strong bones, to have strong muscles. How am I gonna hold a big baby on my hands, right? Eventually. It's all so that I'm not slouching when I'm gonna be old and all of these things. So I found the reasons why I need to exercise regardless, and now I'm exercising regularly, right? Um, says. Do you recognize yourself, Florid? Can you share? Can you share? Okay, you don't have to. Oh, Mike for Zoomites. Oh, basically, Sister Florid, she's saying, can you recognize yourself in these tendencies?
Okay, Uncle Sil, you know me very well. Which one do you recognize me as? Says you would. before I reveal which one,
There's a bit of contention. I don't know,
Okay.
something. Sister Loveland, I think you will need a mic. I wish I could repeat everything, but I see that the responses are longer than I expected.
I'll tell you who you are, because I'm your sister. And we've walked all the miles together. Every miles that I've taken, you've taken. You are the obliger, like myself.
Oh, wow. Revelations. Revelations. I love it. Obliger. You agree? Do you agree?
Seth says I'm a rebel. I most certainly wish I was a rebel because I won't get myself in trouble like I do. Yes, I am an obliger, and I hurt myself to please others. And sometimes it hurts, but I just can't stop it. Yeah.
You
But
can rely on obliger, you see?
That's why I
We
asked.
can count on them.
Okay.
We can
Yes,
count on you. But
Yes.
don't abuse this, right? I told you, don't be unreasonable when you ask them for anything. Because they can then turn into rebels. Oblige rebellion?
That is very.
Yeah, when you burn out, you turn into a rebel as an
Yeah,
obliger.
yeah.
That's right, that's right.
I recognize, in all my years of nursing, with me being an obliger, people took advantage. They took a lot of advantage and they hurt you. But sometimes when you cry, talking about being a rebel, when they shed your tears, it's like shedding your blood. And at that time, you pull your sleeves up and you say, right, I'm ready for you. After they've made you cry, you took so many years and years of all this, and then they make you cry, and then you just say to yourself, I'm ready for you now. And you just put your foot down, and you won't budge. Yes, yes. Yeah, I recognize myself in there. And I recognize my sister also, but I
Right.
will not reveal. She'll have to do it for herself.
Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, now we're gonna move into practical kind of steps or tips on how to help ourselves. Now that you know and you can gather what will help you on a personal level, now like a general level, and some of the tips would be useful for certain habits, some of them for other habits. You just need to tailor to your own needs. And because the clicker is not working, I will need your help, guys. I just can't seem to make it work. And before we move on, the 4 tendencies framework is taken from the book called The 4 Tendencies. And if you haven't figured out yet who you are, you can go to take a quiz to the website on there, gretchenruben.com/quiz. If you need that link later on, you can ask me and I can give it to you. We are moving on to the next framework, which is called the 4 laws of behavior change. So this was the 4 tendencies. The next one is the 4 laws of behavior change. And they have nothing it's just a coincidence that both have number 4 in them. So I would like to show you several statements and like you to tell me what is wrong with those statements. Can we move on? Just one click, no more. Right. I changed the font for some, not for the font, the highlights, I didn't put them. If you can't see, I'll just read them. I want to eat healthier. I want to work out more. I want to use social media less. I want to spend more time with my kids. So what's, what could be problematic about these statements? Then we'll probably need to. I think if you're stuck, it's okay because the first law of behavior change is going to be just about that. No, just shout out the answers. Laura has got an answer. No, but a good guess. Eugene. $10 points. It is not specific, right? I want to eat healthier. What does it mean? I want to work out more. What do you mean? I want to use social media less. Well, how much less? I want to spend more time. Well, how much more time, right? There is no specificity about these. So the first law is to make it obvious, right? There was a research done in 2001 that was researching how to build better exercise habits, right? There were 248 people who took part in that research, and there were 3 groups. One was control group. They had to just track how often they exercised. The second group had to track how often they exercised and read about the benefits of exercises. Talk about questionnaires, right? That was called the motivation group. And the third group was called Motivation Plus group. They had to do everything the previous 2 groups had to do, track and read, but they also had to fill in a sentence. And I would like you to click further. Right, I don't know, why is it all orange? So it will be really useless for you because you probably won't be able to see it. So the sentence that they had to fill was, during the next week, I will partake in at least 20 minutes of vigorous exercise on, fill in the blank, this a day, this time, and this place. Yep. So I had to make that statement. During the next week, I'll partake in at least 20 minutes of exercise, vigorous exercise on this day, this time, and this place. So guess, well, the stats are on there. The 35 to 38% in the first and second group were able to exercise at least once a week. And those who put that statement, right, they rather 91% of that group were able to exercised at least once a week. So that's almost triple success rate if you actually have the time and location, right? So the first law of behavior change is to make it obvious. So your cue for an action would be to choose the time and location for your new behavior, for your new habit. For example, you could make a decision of what that habit, it depends, right? It depends on the habit, of course. You can make the decision when it's going to happen and where. You might be even specific as to what exactly you're going to do, or better, if you are specific, and then put it on the calendar or set up an alarm. Yeah? That's one strategy. Let's move on. Further. So this is the quotation I really like. It says, many people think they lack motivation when what they really lack is clarity, right? We don't usually, or some people say even procrastination. Why people procrastinate is because they lack clarity. What am I supposed to do next, right? So when you get the clarity as to what you're doing, when you're doing, how you're doing, right, where you're doing it, then there's going to be no question. And it's more likely, like the study has shown, that you're going to do it. The next slide, please. So, for example, prayer. I will pray for 15 minutes at 7 a.m. in my bedroom. Study. I will revise for exam for 30 minutes at 10 a.m. in library. Exercise. I will exercise for 1 hour at 5 p.m. in my local gym. Marriage. I'll make my partner a cup of tea at 8 a.m. in the kitchen, right? And fill in the blanks. Your example. I would like to hear an example that you can give me for being specific. I will put a behavior in at this time, in this location. Anyone would like to have a go? So that if we start implementing it now, it's going to be much easier for you to go home and actually have it here. Because if you're not going to think about these examples, then it's, I don't know, some of you might, some of you won't.
I will have 1 hour of practice on my guitar on Wednesday at 6 o'clock.
Excellent, excellent. And now you have to put an alarm clock on Wednesday, 6 p.m. and title it Practice Guitar, okay? So that's as simple as that. That's one tip for making it obvious. The second tip is called habit stacking, and we are moving to the next one. So instead of having the time and location as your cue to start a habit, you're going to use the current habit that you have to start the new habit. How many of you have found this true? When you finish the last bag of tea, you're like, oh, I need to buy some more tea. And you go and write it down in your shopping list. Maybe ladies do that. Maybe men also do that. Or maybe something else, like, oh, the dishwashing liquid is running out. I need to put it on the shopping list. So one action, the dishwashing liquid is running out, led to another action, put it on the shopping list. So the same way we can use our habits, the current habits, to make to give us the cue to start a new habit. For example, after I brush my teeth in the morning, I will pray for 15 minutes. After I have my breakfast, I'll revise for exam for 30 minutes. After I take off my work shoes, I will immediately change into my workout clothes. Or after I get into bed at night, I will give my spouse a kiss. As easy as that. Anyone wants to give an example of their current habit that they can build with a new habit? I know it's not that easy to think on the spot. You're like, what current habits might I have? There's so many habits that we have, like waking up, like brushing teeth, like I don't know, taking shower. And you, in order for you to help yourself with new habits, you have to probably make a list of the current habits that you have to pair them. For example, I started doing this pairing. After I brush my teeth in the morning, I take vitamin D supplements and I put it right next to my toothpaste. Isn't that easy? Right? Or the floss and the toothpaste right next to each other, right? After I brush my teeth, I will floss, for example. Anyone else wants to try?
When I go to grab my water, I will also put the kettle on for my dad.
Aw, how sweet. That's great. Or when usually some people use the filtered water. They fill up their bottle and then they put it back on, and what they don't do is refill the water filter. So for me, it would be like to remember. After I use all the water, I'm going to be refilling the water, yes? Okay, we're going to move on to the next tip. Oh, and the most important is when you want to build a new habit, make sure that the current habit has got the same frequency as the new habit. Because if your current habit happens only twice a week and you want to build like a 5-day-a-week habit, then it's not going to work. It needs to be paired with something as frequent as your old one. I did not prepare any handouts. These are my notes. You know how many handouts there would be? Like 30 page. There's a 30-page notes that I have. So yeah, we can move on to the next one. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything. Yes, I can send, and it's going to be much better than this one because they're not using the same, the PowerPoint Office PowerPoint. This is not Office PowerPoint that's operating this. That's why it's all covered in orange. The same kind of habit stacking tip can be used in general life situations, not only in habits. For example, I've put some that you might be able to relate to. For social skills, when the church service is over, I will introduce myself to someone I don't know yet. Good one to make friends, right? Health, after I have a meal, I'll always take a short walk around the block. Or healthy eating, when I serve myself a meal, I'll always put veggies on my plate first. Or mood, when the phone rings, I will take one deep breath and smile before answering. Why? So just to calm yourself down. And then smiling, when you smile, you actually can't be angry. Have you noticed that? And when you force a person who is angry to smile, they don't want to smile because they know it's going to make them less angry. Yes. Maybe you can give the microphone. Oh, interesting one. The book where I got it from was in 2018. Oh, you didn't see. But also, it's the mood. Maybe you. So they're saying that maybe it was printed when people didn't have mobile phones. But you can be in a bad mood anytime, regardless of who's calling. You can just be in a bad mood at that moment, right? Sometimes. Mobile phones are intrusive, they're saying. Maybe. Yes, we can move on to the next slide. Yes, please, Stephen, make sure that they have the mic in.
There's some people who I talk to on the phone, and regardless of the mood I am in, I never ever finish the conversation without they make me laugh or I make them laugh. Right? It doesn't matter what the news is. She makes me laugh or I get her to laugh. Especially a cousin I've got in Dominica right now. And there are one or two people in here also. I will not embarrass them, but they always leave me in a good mood. So when the phone rings and I see them, regardless of whatever mood I'm in, I say, oh, thank God for them, because I know it's going to be a good day.
Thank you. Let's check tip number 3 for making a habit more obvious. If we go to the next slide, the tip is to design your environment, right? So you were talking about changing the environment, about the fizzy drinks. So to make a habit more obvious, for example, for healthy eating, what examples can we do? Instead of having a bunch of unhealthy snacks at home, to have a bunch of healthy snacks. Put the fruit in the fruit bowl instead of tucking it at the back of your fridge so you can't even see it, right? Somebody is flushing their eyes. Did you do this? Drinking more water. You can have a large pitcher on your desk, right? Or carry a water bottle. That's designing your environment, right? To support, to make the habits more obvious. Taking supplements, like I said, putting them, for example, at the bathroom sill or next to your tea kettle, next to something that you always are going to be, you're going to see it there immediately, Second, supplements, vitamin D or, practicing an instrument. Maybe you want to instead of putting it in the closet, put it out there in the middle of the room on a stand, right? So you can see it every time you walk in. Working out more. You can prepare your clothes and put them next to your bed in the morning, right? Or don't even, one person to make themselves work out more was going to sleep in their workout clothes so that as soon as they wake up, they're ready. Yep. I know. What people do only to make themselves, do something good. Anything else? Maybe you can give us your examples on designing your environment.
Yes. Putting your clothes out for the next day folded up on the side.
Mm-hmm. Putting clothes ready for the next day. Yeah. Done. Yep. Yeah, so for the Zoomites, Donovan is saying about type 2 diabetes. So what can you do to design your environment to help you stick to a habit?
My doctor was saying what it is that you think you can do to reverse being on the verge of type 2 diabetes. And I was there changing certain habits that I have, my eating patterns, because I never normally eat in the mornings. I used to eat like maybe 11, 12. She said, okay, your most important meal of the day would be your breakfast in the morning. That's the meal that set you up to carry you through the day. And she asked me, how do you eat? I said, well, I don't eat in the morning. She said, that's one problem that you have. She said, make sure you have a healthy breakfast, and maybe a little snack or some fruits, 11, 12. And then 1, 2, you have, a proper lunch or so. Can you try this for 1 week? Mm-hmm. I used to have very terrible headaches in the mornings before she bring this to my attention. And I followed her pattern for 1 week. And from that time, over 6, 7 years now, I never have that sort of headache that I used to have. Because she said, you are from the Caribbean. and you're used to so much healthy fruits and vegetables and so. Why not try to get back into the habit of eating, lots of fruits and vegetables and.
Yeah.
And I did. And to be honest, I feel much better. I try my best. I set my alarm for 4:30 in the mornings because I want to get up, do my exercise, and do this, that before I go off to work.
Wow.
And from I have been doing that, I don't normally feel that headaches I used to have before. So
Wow.
it really helps. I'm just thinking how important a habit can be. It can be very bad, and it can be so useful to an individual.
Excellent, excellent. I just thought of another one, and you broke the habit of losing your keys, is putting them in the same spot every single time. I have like a hook next to my door. There's no way I can lose my keys unless I have not took them out of the bag or pocket, but they always are in the same spot. So this is the design your environment, to make a habit more obvious. Now we're going to go into how to help us break a bad habit using the same law. So for the good ones, we need to make them more obvious, and for the bad ones, we have to make them invisible, right? So, we can try and break a habit, but you will unlikely to forget it. Every time that you will meet with a queue, for example, you are passing up the donut shop or a bakery, right? That queue is going to be tempting every single time you pass that. It is much easier to avoid a bad habit, to avoid temptation, than to resist temptation, right? So the examples would be not to pass that, to go on another route if you are trying to avoid, say, a notorious bakery, right? Or if you can't seem to get any work done, leave your phone in another room for a few hours. Some people are hiding their phone. Some people are asking their colleagues to hold on to their phone while they're in their working hours. If you're continually thinking that you're not enough, stop following social media accounts that trigger jealousy and envy. Yeah? Just avoid them. If you're wasting too much time watching television, move the TV out of bedroom. Some people go as far as every time that they finish watching, they unplug, take the TV and put it in the closet. You know how much harder it is to watch TV every time when you need to pull it out, put it back and plug it in? That's actually also in the behavior change, another law of behavior change, which is to make it difficult, but also to make it invisible. So that's it for the first law of behavior change, make it obvious or make it invisible. Are there any questions about this law? No, I can see yawns, but I don't see or hear any questions. Bear with me. There's a lot to cover. We've got 3 more laws to cover. I'll try to make it as probably less theoretical and more practical. So we're going to go straight into the second law, make it attractive. Wow, suddenly. Did you do any magic on them? Oh, thank you so much, Laura. No, you didn't. I thought that you actually did remove the highlights. Thank you. So to make habits stick, we need to make it, wake up. We need to make it attractive. It's okay. Yeah, you're listening. So we need to make a habit attractive in order to stick to it. Why bad habits stick, right? Because usually they are very attractive. They give you a sense of pleasure. And oftentimes they do that even before you do that particular habit. Just by thinking that you're gonna do that, it already gives you pleasure, right? So we want to use the same pull that the bad habits have on us to actually build good ones. And in order to do that, we want to go to tip number 1. And that tip, I'm sure there was another slide. Yes. It's called temptation bundling. So this is a funny one. Let me tell you a story. There was a guy who wanted to exercise more, and he had what's it called? A stand bike. What's it called? Like the bike that, static bike. He had a static bike, and he loved watching a certain TV show. Yeah. So he decided, because he was an engineer, he hacked the static bike, connected it to his laptop, and made it so that every time when he built it, the show would only play if he built up a certain speed on his bike. As soon as he slowed down, the show would stop playing, right? So that's called temptation bundling. He used his desire for this pleasurable thing to make the thing that he really needed to do, which was exercise. We can use the same strategy for our habits. For example, I've got some interesting examples here. I can only listen to the news or favorite podcast or an audiobook when I'm cleaning, washing up, or folding laundry, or walking the dog, or running, right? So you can combine the pleasurable with the important or useful things. Or I can only check social media or watch my favorite show or etc. while working out at the gym. I can only go to my favorite restaurant while spending time with a difficult relative who I should see more often. I can only enjoy the sunshine when I also revise for my exam. I can only eat bread when I pair it with salad. And there are so many other ones that you can do. I personally don't like washing up, and I always listen to something educational while I'm doing that. Why not? Why waste time, right, when I can pair something that I need to do with something that I want to do? So this is the principle that we are using here. If you go to the next slide, it will show you. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Exactly. That's what I want to do in my life forever. Never. Can we go to the next slide if there's anyone still alive? Oh, no, I think it skipped 1 slide. It definitely skipped. No? Oh, yeah. Maybe I put it, it was my mistake. I put it first. So you combining your wants, the pleasures you enjoy and temptations you want to do, like the good temptations, and with your needs, the tasks and behaviors you should be doing but often procrastinate on. Have you maybe already thought about something that you could be doing or not? Or maybe you're going to think about that when you get home. I wonder, after this presentation, come to me if you actually implement any of these. Like, it can be any one. I would be really curious to see what you'll do with this information. Yep. Oh, put vitamins. Mm-hmm. Excellent. So, fluoride. Mike. Let's use the mic.
I had a habit which, when I was a youngster, I could never watch the television without something in my hand. I'd have to be knitting, crocheting, or sewing. And I'm still getting the pleasure of watching the TV whilst I've
You're
produced
productive,
something.
yeah.
So I'm trying to go back to that sort of life, which it's hard because I do a lot of running around. So
yes,
I'm trying to go back to it.
you've done something useful at the same time. Daddy.
we have a static bike at home, so sometimes it's a chore cycling. But if I'm watching TV and cycling, I could see that being a bit more pleasing.
Enjoyable,
Do you know what I
exactly.
mean? So I can watch TV and cycle.
Yay.
So that
and
could
make
work.
it a rule. You can only watch your favorite show or football or whatever happens. Remember, it has to happen at the same frequency that the habit you're trying to build. Yeah? Yeah. Has to have the same frequency that the habit you want to build. Excellent, excellent, excellent. I love this. I love this. Okay. Okay. Let's go to the tip number 2. Find your tribe. So this is about being careful with the people who we surround ourselves with, right? None of us were born with the habits that we have, right? We pick up the habits from our environment a lot of times, yep. The school, the friends, the family, church, local community, and society at large. And mainly from the 3 groups, so the close, the many, the powerful. Yes, so we want to imitate what other people are doing because, either they have got some kind of authority or because they're many. Kind of the herd mentality, if you've heard about it. It can be used for good as well, so we want to use that for our good. And I've put a quote that I like. Actually was reading while preparing for this presentation, just randomly happened to stumble on this quote. It says, "Do you desire to form correct habits?" I was like, oh, that's perfect for the presentation. "Then seek the company of those who are sound in morals and whose aim tends to that which is good." And this is exactly what this second tip is about, is finding the people who would support the habits that you want to build, right? If you go to the next slide, it will tell us something about joining a culture where your desired behavior is a normal behavior. All these people say eat healthy plant-based dishes, right? Or these people exercise regularly. Find a culture where this behavior that you want to build is a normal one. And it's even more powerful if you find something with a culture that you have already something in common with. Yep. The simple truth is that challenge is easy when changing your habits means fitting in with a tribe. Change is very attractive, but when changing means not fitting in with a tribe, then it's very hard, right? We don't like being the oddballs. We don't like being the different ones. So let's try and find. And church is a perfect place for that, by the way, for a lot of good habits. There's one study that's tracked 12,000 people, imagine, for 32 years. That's a good amount of stats, right? And found that a person's chances of becoming obese increased by 57% if he or she had a friend who became obese. But it works the other way too. Another study found that if one person in a relationship lost weight, the other partner would also slim down about 1/3 of the time. So you can see how the peer pressure and how being associated with certain people helps us, and also sometimes doesn't help us. But better to break from bad relationships and build good ones. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, reframing. I really like this one. So, what is reframing and how we can use it to make habits more attractive? So, when you say to yourself, I have to, that's not really helpful because of your mindset, right? You have to do this. But when you change it into something like, I get to, for example, instead of I have to go to church, I get to go to church. Do you see the change in perspective? Right? It sounds like a reward. Or I have to read the Bible. I get to read the Bible. Or I have to eat healthy. I get to eat healthy. You know, when I was reading the second part of these examples, I was thinking about as if almost like I am allowed to do that. You know how many people are allowed to eat healthy in prison? Right? Are they? You know, we can choose to eat healthy, right? They can't choose. The choice is made for them, what they're going to eat. In some countries, you can't read the Bible, but we are allowed to read the Bible, right? In some countries, you're not allowed to go to church, but we are allowed. So I take it as a perspective that I am allowed to, or I can choose to do that, rather than I have to. And the same we have to use to make the habits more attractive. Just by changing that have to get to, or I choose to, right? And you can use the same for example, instead of saying, I need to exercise today, you can say, it's time to build endurance and get fast. Or, I'm nervous about my exam. You can say something like, I am excited and I'm getting an adrenaline rush to help me concentrate, right? Positive reinforcement, yes. That's reframing. And there was a story about a person who used a wheelchair, and somebody asked them if it was difficult being confined. And he responded, I am not confined to my wheelchair. I am liberated by it. If it wasn't for my wheelchair, I would be bedbound and never able to leave my house. This shift in perspective completely transformed that man's life, right? Or how he lived each day, yes? So we can do the same with our, with the things that we need to do, right? And now let's move on to how we can use the second law to break bad habits by making it unattractive. So we were trying to make the good habits attractive by using the previous tips. So was finding the tribe. What else was? I forgot the number one. And reframing. And now let's look at how can we make a habit unattractive. How many of you have read or come across or know somebody who read the book called Alan Carr's Easy Way to Stop Smoking? Oh, one person? Okay. That book helped my dad, who was smoking for 18 years, since age 18, to quit smoking. And he used to smoke about a pack of cigarettes a day. He started when, he started, by the way, in the military. You know why? Because everybody was smoking. Talking about finding the tribe, right? You know, he found people who were, well, he was kind of, he had no choice, right? He was around people who were smoking, and so he was smoking as well. And he read this book, and this book is more about reframing that we talked about previously, but in order to break a habit, right? So it says things like, you think you're quitting smoking, but you're not quitting anything because cigarettes do nothing for you. You think smoking is something you need to do to be social, but it's not. You can be social without smoking at all. You think smoking is about relieving stress, but it's not. Smoking does not relieve your nerves, it destroys them. You're losing nothing, and you're making marvelous positive gains, not only in health, energy, and money, but also in confidence, self-respect, freedom, and most important of all, in the length and quality of your future life. My dad said that he read this book in one go, and he says this is the best way to read it. And it just reframed the whole thing. And he realized that he doesn't need a cigarette anymore. And a lot of times why we stick to a bad habit is because of what that habit we think gives us, and that's the only way we can get it. For example, relaxation, or maybe we want to obtain food and water, all of these kind of needs like Maslow's pyramid, etc. Reduce uncertainty, find love, and reproduce. Every single habit can be traced down to our basic needs, right? The underlying motive why we do something. For example, putting pictures on Facebook is to get validation, right? Or, I don't know, connecting like on Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, social media, etc., is to feel connected with somebody. Even your desire for a donut can be traced back to your need for food, even though on the surface level you don't think it about that way. So the smoking is not the only way to relieve stress. And when we can change or reframe it in a way that it doesn't actually bring the benefits, and highlighting the negatives of that particular habit, then we can break it or make it unattractive and therefore break it. Maybe yours would be something about sugar. So you can be finding things that, you think that sugar is something that you need to be social. Eating a cake, right? But it's not. You can be social without eating a cake. Things like this. Of course, sugar, it doesn't really give you a high. It gives you spike of blood sugar levels, and then you crash down and you feel sluggish afterwards. And you can get the same kind of enjoyment from eating fruit, or all of these things that you can find that might be helpful for you. I look at the crowd and I see some kind of a almost like disgust when I say these things. Mike.
I've got two bad habits. I do not drink water.
Where's your water bottle? Where's your water bottle?
In the tap somewhere.
Exactly. My water bottle is here.
I don't drink water, and I love sugar. I'm not addicted to sweets, but I love cakes. And my fruits got to be sweet.
Oh, can I tell you that refined sugar is not the only sweetener in the whole world?
No. I just said I love cakes. I don't crave sugar in its pure form. Mm-hmm. But if I have a drink, it's got to be sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, there's lots of natural sugar substitutes. Of course, the refined one is the cheapest one. That's why it's in everything, even in savory foods. But I think it's another presentation about sugar I want to make one day, definitely. I want to make it. Because I've learned so much about the negative effects of sugar. And also, I found so many ways to replace it that it's just evil not to share. Okay, let's move on to the third law of behavior change, is to make the habit easy. So, let's see. How many days do you need to build a new habit? Okay, Florence says 21. Anyone else wants to guess? One day? One day? Just make up your mind and that's it? You've got to start. For sure. Yeah, to build a habit. So the stats are actually not in the length, but in the frequency of a habit. It doesn't matter how many days pass since the time you made a decision to build a habit. What matters is how many times you did that habit that defines whether it's going to stick or not. The repetition is what's important, right? So a lot of people, they find it kind of hard to kind of shift themselves from taking motion to taking action. What's the difference between being in motion and being in action? So emotion is planning, researching, finding the best recipes to start a healthy diet, right? Instead of actually starting it, yeah? It's because a lot of times we are afraid of failure, and we just think that this is like almost like, it looks like I'm doing something, I'm busy. But what will help is actually if you start the action, and it doesn't have to be perfect. What matters is the rate at which you perform a habit. There was an interesting study done by an artist, like an artist teacher, who asked two groups. You on the left, you have to take 100 pictures, 100 photographs, yes, and choose the best one and present it to me, right, at the end of the course. And the second half had to do just one perfect picture, yeah? And surprisingly, when he tallied the numbers, then the best pictures, all of them, came from the group that did the most pictures during the semester. Because the second group, what they were doing is just theorizing what would make the picture great, right? And the other group just got on and did practice, right? So the same way how we can be stuck in trying to choose the perfect day to start a habit, the perfect routine to do the workout. I don't know what has to happen, right, for it to start. But what you need to do is just take action. The next tip that we have is the law of the least effort. You know that people generally try to do what is easier, yep? And we want to work with the grain of human nature rather than against it. So, because the energy is precious, we're trying to conserve as much as possible. And it's in our nature to follow the law of least effort, which states that when deciding between two similar options, people will naturally gravitate toward the option that requires the least amount of work, right? So it is important that we make habits so easy that you'll do them even when you don't feel like it. And one of the most effective ways to reduce the friction associated with your habits is to practice environment design. For example, when deciding where to practice a new habit, it's best to choose a place that's already along the path of your daily routine, right? If you want to exercise more, don't choose the gym, assuming that you want to go to the gym, that is far, far, far away from the path where you work, right? Or want to cook more, and I think it's on the next slide, if we could go there. Sharpen your knives. Have all... You know how hard it is to chop vegetables with a blunt knife? How enjoyable and how often you're going to do that if it's going to be this hard. Have all frequently used ingredients within easy reach. Create a list of favorite recipes. Can we move to the next slide, please? Want to draw more? Put your pencils, pens, notebooks, and drawing tools on top of your desk within easy reach. Want to exercise? Set out your workout clothes, shoes, gym bag, and water bottle ahead of time. The next tip is 2-minute rule to make things easy. So a new habit should not take too much time to start. So when you want to do a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to not to do, it should be to start. Yes, I've changed that. It should take only 2 minutes to start. So a new habit should not feel like a challenge. The actions that follow might be challenging, but the first 2 minutes should be easy. And we can break down any habit that you want to form into a 2-minute version. For example, run a marathon, the 2-minute version, put on your running shoes, right? Write a book, the 2-minute version, write 1 sentence. Earn a PhD, the 2-minute version, open your notes. Yes, and we can break down any habit like this into a 2-minute rule. So the key is not to do like 2 minutes, but is to show up. So the key is to do the action as frequently as possible, or showing up, basically. You showed up, and therefore you're reinforcing the person that you want to be. I want to be the person who works out regularly. I want a person who eats healthy. Yes, it's we need to be more consistent with our habits. So it is the habit of showing up that we're trying to reinforce. If we can go on to the next slide. It's always better to do less than you hoped for than to do nothing at all, right? And only when you do something you can actually improve on it. You can't start with a perfect habit, right? If you have never even tried doing it. So if you want to be a person who doesn't miss workouts, start showing up, right? Even if just put the workout clothes on and take them off, that's fine. Then put them on, maybe next time, you'll be like, I've already got them on, so I might as well do at least 5 minutes, right? There was, I think it's here, or maybe, there was a person who lost, how much he lost? He was overweight, and he just followed this 5-minute rule. He came to gym, he worked out only for 5 minutes, and he left. He said, I can only work out for 5 minutes. He left. He did that for a long time, until a few weeks, and then he looked around and thought, well, I'm always coming here anyway. I might as well start a little longer. A few years later, the weight was gone. So if you think that, 2-minute rule, it's as if I'm trying to trick myself because I'm actually supposed to do more. If you think that you're tricking yourself, try and do just 2 minutes and stop, and you can't do anymore. Try and do that, and do that. The habit that you're trying to form is showing up. And maybe like that person in the gym, eventually you'll be like, while I'm here, I might as well do a little longer. And the last one in this third law, and we've got only 4, so we've got only 1 law left, but the last one to break a habit. This is not the last tip, sorry. The last tip in this law of making it easy is called the habit shaping. So once we start with something small, we can build and shape our habit into what we want to see, right? There's a lot of like small print things, but for example, if you want to become an early riser, and I'm just gonna take this as an example, phase 1 would be home by 10 p.m. every night, just to be home by 10 p.m. Phase number 2, have all devices, TV, phone, etc., turned off by 10 p.m. every night. So once you've accomplished the first phase, you can go into the second phase. Once that becomes a habit, you go to the third phase. Be in bed by 10 p.m. every night, reading a book, talking with your spouse, etc. Once that becomes a habit, go to phase number 4. Lights off by 10 p.m. every night. And then phase number 5, wake up 6 a.m. every week. Yeah? Same with becoming a vegan. Start by eating vegetables at each meal. That's phase 1. Phase 2, stop eating animals with 4 legs. Cow, lamb, goat. Phase 3, stop eating animals with 2 legs. Chicken, turkey, duck, etc. Phase number 4, stop eating animals with no legs. Fish, shellfish, etc. And phase number 5, stop eating all animal products. Eggs, milk, cheese. With exercise, first step, like we said, change into workout clothes. That's it. You're not doing anything else. I know it's ridiculous. I wouldn't do that. I would actually, if I put on workout clothes on, I better do something because I don't like changing clothes, to be honest. Phase number 2, step out the door, try taking a walk. Try taking a walk, yeah? Phase 3, drive to the gym, exercise for 5 minutes and leave. Phase 4, exercise for 15 minutes at least once a week. And phase number 5, exercise 3 times a week. I call them like 1% improvements. Like that's what I like to call them, 1% improvements. It feels so small. That's why the presentation, Atomic Habits, it's so small, like the small increments. We try to make it so big in the beginning. You know, we try to go all in. But what we need is a gradual, small changes. What is the next slide? This is also for making habits easy, but this is to do with habits that is like a one-off. Have you heard the phrase, a gift that keeps on giving? You know, you do something once, and you don't have to remember to do it anymore. So these are for repetitive actions. Like for nutrition, you might want to buy a water filter to clean your drinking water. Or use smaller plates to reduce caloric intake. It's like you buy the plate once, but you know it's something that is going to be helpful in the long run. Happiness, get a dog. Or move to a friendly social neighborhood. Sleep, get a good mattress, or get blackout curtains, or remove TV from your bedroom, such an important one. For general health, buy good shoes to avoid back pain. You know, buy a pair of shoes once, and then it keeps on giving, right? Buy a supportive chair or a standing desk. Buy a water bottle. I told you, Uncle Sil. Your personal one, like this one. So you know it's yours. You know, and there's lots of different ones. For productivity, unsubscribe from emails, turn off notifications and mute group chats. That's when you're trying to be productive, of course. You don't have to do that for every day. Or set your phone on silent. Use email filters to clear up your inbox. And for finances, enroll in an automatic savings plan, or set up direct debit for bills, or cut cable service. I don't even have TV or TV license. Like, I don't watch TV, so that's already saves me £140 every year. Already more. So it's the old stats. How much? 160. So it saves me £160 every year. I just watch YouTube, some educational stuff on there. Ask service providers to lower your bills. But this is like for like those kind of one-off tasks that you can do, and then you will reap the benefits of them over the years. You can find so many others. And the next one? The next slide, please. So the opposite of the third law of making it easy is to make it difficult for the bad habits, right? Remember the TV I was telling you that some people unplug it and move it, you know? You can start by just unplugging it first. The second step, if that doesn't work, might be to remove the batteries from the remote. So it takes 10 seconds or longer to put the TV on. You have to put them back in, then you plug the TV, and then it works. And the third one is, if you want to go hardcore, is unplugging and then moving it into a closet. And you have to, so you actually watch TV only when you really want it, right? So, like we've mentioned, buying smaller plates to not overeat, or if you are going to town for a walk, you can leave your wallet or purse at home, so it's harder for you to, so you can prevent impulse buying, right? There's so many different things that you can, so the key is to make the habit harder, yeah? The good one easier, the bad one harder. If your problem is checking phone before you get important work done, then leave it in a different room until lunch. If sticking your phone in another room doesn't seem like enough, tell a friend or family member to hide it from you for a few hours. Or ask a coworker to keep it at their desk in the morning and give it back to you at lunch. So, any other examples? No, I think that's the examples. And so this was the commitment device. I was thinking, what was I wanted to say about that? Oh, the commitment device is, for example, so you make a commitment that, for example, you don't want to check social media, so you delete it now for the case when you want to check it. Then there's going to be no social media to check, right? Or you can ask your family member or friend to hide all unhealthy treats from you. That you ask them now, so you make a commitment, but then later when you want them, or you know that you have to go through a tough wall, right? Yeah, there are many others that you can think of yourself. Before we go to the last one, I see that so many people are so tired, but there's just one last one left. Are there any questions? And I suspect there won't be any because people are sleepy. Okay, I see no questions. Brilliant. We can move on to the next. They probably want to, let's get through this quick. The fourth law, I'll make it very short. Actually, I'll just tell you a story how in India, if I'm right, Karachi, I think it's in India, or Pakistan. Pakistan, thank you. They had very bad sanitary condition, or how do you call it? They had dysentery, they had, bad kind of hygiene. What researchers did is they just gave them safeguard soap, and people kept, so the levels of dysentery dropped by 52%, I think, and it was because people felt it satisfying to wash their hands, right? The soap lathered well and it smelled nice. So it's like, if you want to brush your teeth more, make sure that your toothpaste is nice, nice scent, pleasant feel, etc. You will repeat, it says we're more likely to repeat a behavior when the experience is satisfying, right? And pleasure teaches your brain that behavior is worth remembering and repeating. In order for us to help us with habits that we want to build, we can use a tip called reward. Yeah, so rewarding yourself, you know how we like instant gratification, we like, for the habit to feel pleasant in the moment. But oftentimes, losing weight is not like anywhere inside, because it's gonna take a while. It's gonna take years until we see, or maybe months until we see the results. But we can actually tie in something that will help us feel a bit better now. So we can reward ourselves. If we can go to the next slide. There are things that we can do. For example, if you're trying to stay away from unnecessary purchases, maybe skipping takeaway, etc., you generally don't feel the benefit of it in the moment that you have saved money, right? But what if you create a savings account where you will transfer that money that you saved into that account every time when you skip on unnecessary purchase or skipped on takeaway or whatever you buy, impulse buy? Then it will be more visible. It's like a reward. Some people even did like a holiday account where they would save for the holiday just because, they kept that habit going. Or, for example, I'm not going to give that example. In perfect world, the habit that you're trying to build would be the reward in and of itself, the exercise. But in this world, we need to make ourselves do something, and we have to make it more pleasurable. So we need to have like a short-term reward. Maybe you take a bubble bath or leisurely walk for accomplishing a hard project or exam. Things like that. And then another tip, if we can go to the next one, is tracking your habits. Sometimes it's very pleasant to just tick the box. You can use a calendar to do that after you have completed a habit. I have got a year-long tracker, and I fill it for 5 of the habits that I want to build. Every time I do a habit, I kind of cross it, and when I don't, there is a dot. At the end of the month, I count how many crosses I have and put it next. So each month I am actually motivated to beat the previous month, whether it's no sugar or whether it's workout or whether it's reading in the park or walking in the park. I've put a habit like this for myself because I want to be out in nature more, things like that. So it's actually very satisfying for people to have a visual cue of how much progress you've done, which kind of reinforces who you want to be. Even the tracking of the behavior can spark the urge to change the behavior, which also helps to keep you honest. You can't tell that, I've been really good this month, looking at it. If it tells you honest, honest chart. Yeah, you've been good, or also you can use it, the habit stacking that I've talked about before, when after this habit, I'm going to do this habit. So after I do workout, I'm going to tick the box. That's another one you can do. Just to give you support for this method is one study of more than 1,600 people found that those who those who keep a daily food log lost twice as much weight as those who did not. Twice as much food log, What are they eating? Those who were tracking what they are eating lost twice as much weight as those who did not. And the tracking can be particularly good on a bad day, right? You can see how much hard work you have done, right, already. So maybe I shouldn't skip today. Or you can see that you have skipped already twice in a row, and you're like, my rule is not to skip more than twice in a row. Yeah, and then you wanted, when you have to make a decision, can I skip this time or can I not? You're like, I've already skipped twice, so my rule is not to skip, therefore I have to do it. Yeah, or I get to do it. Yeah. So the most important with this method is to probably not do it for too many habits, because the tracking can become very tedious if you have to track like 10 habits. Yeah, so that's it for the tracking. The most important is to get back if you slip, to get back quickly, like we said, and action over perfection is better to do it even 5 minutes, even a little bit, just showing up like we've discussed before. And the key, don't track something that you can't control. Don't track the weight on the scales, because what people tend to do is they can do anything, even like things that are bad for them, to make that number shift. Yeah, crash diets, under eating, and all sorts of things, like fat loss pills. So we shouldn't be tracking those numbers that we can't control. I can control how many workouts I can do a week, but I can't control the number on the scales, right? It can depend on so many different things. And for the fourth law, how to make bad habits, so we were trying to make them satisfying. Now we're trying to make them unsatisfying for the bad ones. As you know, we're trying to avoid pain at all costs. Yeah, and one of the ways we can do that is to create a habit contract. You know what a habit contract is? Is when you ask somebody, you tell a person, it's good for obligers, right? Because they need accountability. You ask that I'm going to do this, and if I'm not going to do this, then this should happen to me, right? It either some kind of a loss of money, or I have to, I don't know, wear silly clothing to my work every day, and somebody signs for it. And this is like how we try to, because we try to avoid pain, we're gonna try to make that, to keep the contract. And another way is just, if you don't fancy a habit contract, you can just get an accountability. Ask somebody to help you keep your habits. I think we have covered a lot today, and we are spot on 6 o'clock. And I would like to bring this presentation to a close with questions, if there are any, and if they're not, with...
Where does compliments fit in?
Compliments.
Yes.
I guess if the person's love language is words of affirmation, then they will be very much motivated to keep doing, because this reaffirms the person who they want to be. For example, if you compliment a person by saying, you're so organized, even if they don't believe that they're very organized, they'll be like, because I want to reinforce that, I'm going to be more organized. It just happens like a reverse psychology. You're so organized. They're like, oh, I want to do this to be more organized.
Right.
Just want to comment on what Brother Toussaint said. Some compliments can make you go down, or like it's sort of a compliment. Let me say, like we did CHIP some years back, CHIP program. We did very well. Some of us, we did very, very well. Some kept doing it.
Can you tell us what CHIP program is?
Oh, CHIP program is It's a health program, which was it was a research. It started as a research which was done in Loma Linda, and it was introduced to many churches, Seventh-day Adventist churches, and many people who were bedridden, who had conditions, they went back to normal. So it's a coronary health information program. Yeah, so we did that program. I tell you, I lost a lot of weight. It was so good. And I was trying to educate other people. So I became very confident of what I was because I lost a lot and it was good. But I'm saying it's compliments. Like some people say, oh, you've done very, very well. I think we did. One of them is my sister there. You've done very well. Some would say, oh, bones. You are just like bones. But that's not a compliment.
Wow.
What is it? A criticism.
Jealousy, I would say.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you think, like what you said, you said something like that
I
you
was
go
told,
back and
why do you
read
need
and
to go to
research.
the gym?
And research and say, am I going the wrong way? And you study and you realize, oh, I need to do it because it's right. But sometimes you can't go on because you keep getting this. Anyway, I can get here where you're coming from. You keep getting those comments until you fall back.
You see,
And then,
you see, with this method, I see one problem because it does not depend on you. You can't make other people compliment you. So it's not a good strategy to keep a habit, right? All of these methods are all that depend on you. It's like expecting a compliment is like expecting the scale to shift. It doesn't, the number. It doesn't depend on you. Whether you're going to get a compliment or not. Sometimes you might get discouraging comments like, why do you need to go to gym? Or, oh, you're skin and bones. These are just outright jealous comments. And it was told by the person who was very overweight and definitely needed definitely needed gym herself. Yeah, my manager.
So just to say a bit more, in my culture,
Yep.
in my culture, when I'm so tiny and slim, it means he's not looking after me. Yeah?
Not looking after you, but troubling you.
So when I'm big, it's like he's doing a good job. Yeah? But myself now, because I know I'm in the worst health stage, worse. So I need to look after myself. But those comments, honestly speaking, even my husband didn't like it as well. He said, oh, no, you are too much. Then there's a lady who said, oh, men don't eat don't eat bones. It's like I was so tiny that... And it would discourage you so much.
You can ask, or you can tell the person something like, just think about this comment. It's so illogical. Men don't eat women. Isn't it true? Men don't eat women. So where's logic in... No, I know it's a phrase. It is, but it's still... It's like it's getting on you. You're like, yeah, men don't eat skin. Like they, as if that's. It's like when people say, why? When people say trying, having sex before marriage. I like John Peterson's recent video, and he said, "Woman is not a car." And I was like, yeah, woman is not a car. Why people are saying, I need to try before I can buy? Yeah? So I'm like, yeah, we just need to break down for what these statements are. They're not logical, they're lies, and they're just made to let us feel bad about ourselves and the good behavior that we're trying to build. So this person, you don't want to put them in your tribe when you're trying to find a culture that supports the behavior you want to be. You want to find people who will be complimenting you for your slim looks, etc., etc. Yep.
Talking about jealousy, years ago, where I worked, there was a young man who was going to the gym. He was a version of our Carl. And there was this soft, flabby chap. He says, why do you waste your time going to the gym? I don't need to go to the gym. I'm fit. And he says, I'm fit, look at me. I don't go to the gym. He says, go on, punch me. So the chap pulled his hands down.
Wow.
And he punched him. And he just doubled up in half.
Oh, no.
And honestly, we thought he was going to collapse. And he stayed there for a good 4 minutes in pain and in agony. Then he recovered and he says, okay, my turn to hit you now. So the chap said, sorry, I never made any plan with you for you to hit me. You said you were fit and I was supposed to hit you, so I hit you. Right? And we all laughed at him. But just so that jealousy. Because the chap was fit and everyone was complimenting him, but he's there, no one compliments. So he wanted to show off. So there's always psychology. Why do you go to the gym? Why do you exercise? Jealousy.
Yeah. Jealous people don't want you to succeed. These are not people you want to have in your tribe.